or even if it was right all the time, even if it was never wrong, still not having done it yourself and knowing how this stuff works, I think almost makes it useless in your hands.
He's the CEO and co-founder, if you remember, of GreenPal. It's an on-demand lawn care platform that he bootstrapped to $30 billion plus in annual revenue with zero outside funding. After exiting a $10 million landscape company, Brian rebuilt from scratch, this time designing the business to be sellable from day one.
I locked myself, and my two co-founders did too. We locked ourselves in an office and almost never came out. I got to 300 pounds, and I felt bad. And my business output, suffered. I made this mistake with my first business, as I was building it and growing it from just me and like a push mower to me and 90 trucks going out every day. I had built it as a lifestyle business. I had built it where I was running it kind of from the heart almost. You really don't have a business until you can leave it for like a month or two and come back and it's actually stronger, meaning you have built in place systems that make it durable, and you're looking for ways that you can build routines and reinforcing systems and processes in the business to where not only will it maintain without you, but it'll actually grow and prosper.
Alrighty then. Welcome back to another Friday Habit. And today is a great day because we got a returning guest on the podcast. It's been a few years, but we are blessed to have Brian Clayton on. He's the CEO and co-founder, if you remember, of GreenPal. It's an on-demand lawn care platform that he bootstrapped to $30 billion plus in annual revenue with zero outside funding. After building and exiting a $100 million or $10 million landscape company, Brian rebuilt from scratch. This time designing the business to be sellable from day one. So Brian, welcome back to the Friday Habit.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be with you again. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years, Mark, and it's crazy how fast the time goes.
It does go fast.
Scary.
Yeah, it is, man. So Ben and I started the podcast in the winter of 2019. We kind of launched the show in 2020, and then COVID hit, and it seems like COVID did that weird thing where it just sucked up all the time for like 2-3 years.
It's like a time vortex.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is very funny looking back how much it's like, when did that happen? Was that like 2021 or was that 2022? It's just like weird,
Totally.
So so I remember our conversation because I thought it was really cool how you were kind of managing and a part of like a big lawn care company, right? Like doing corporate stuff, big contracts and doing all this, and you kind of cashed it all in and went all in on kind of developing this idea you had of moving more into like the SaaS space, right?
Yeah, that's
it's
exactly
like
right.
It's essentially like an Uber for lawn care, right? It's like DoorDash for lawn care. You're like, you know what? I'm feeling like I need my lawn mowed today. Let me just find somebody and have them do it and get some bids and get it done.
Totally.
And
totally.
so you did that. And how are things been going? Because remind me how long. So 5 years ago, let's say 4 years ago. Let's be conservative that we met and connected. How long have you been doing GreenPal now?
Yeah, coming up on a little over 10 years running GreenPal.
Okay.
And now we're nationwide in the United States with around 300,000 people using it every week to get lawn mowing done. Started off with just 10 people. I begged 10 friends and family members to use the app, and then just slowly knuckled down on that and started growing that number little by little. And now we want to get to 1 million. We feel like we can service 1 million people very easily.
Okay, that's awesome. And so what have been some of the challenges that you would say? So 5 years ago, you'd been around for 5 years, and in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, there's a lot of learning curve as far as like starting a SaaS company in comparison to having a boots on the ground lawn care company, right? So obviously you probably learned a lot. You probably spent more money than you should have, and you probably had bugs and all sorts of other stuff. What are some of the things that you've learned over this next 5 years that since we've kind of chatted? What have been some of the things that you have set as far as goals, new issues, growth? I mean, what do you got going on?
Yeah, whenever you're building a company like this, you kind of have three buckets that you're focusing on, and you kind of try to focus your firepower on one of those three things at a given time. And that's the way I think about it. And so the three buckets would be getting customers, keeping customers, and then growing customers. So I look at it like get, keep, grow. And in the early days, it was very much 100% of our time was just on get. How do we do inbound search marketing? How do we do SEO? How do we do Google AdWords? How do we do social media marketing? Let's get as many customers as we can to use this thing. As time has gone on, I've been able to peel away time from that bucket and focus on the other two. And that is keeping more customers and then using that base to grow more customers. And looking at, okay, we had 100 people use it today, and only 90 of them came back next week to use it again. How do we get it to 99? And like, how do we plug the leaks in the bucket? And looking at the data to do that, and asking our customers, what is it about the platform that they wish it would do better or differently? And so that's how I look at it now, in terms of a lot of my time is spent on keeping the customers we have and then using that base to grow more in terms of referral and word of mouth, and leveraging that user base to grow it even bigger.
Yeah. So what's your role right now in the company?
I've been the founder and CEO since day one, and I made a commitment to do that as long as I was having fun.
Okay.
And so I started this business very much at a necessity, because I needed another project. I had built a landscaping business to about 150 people, then sold it. And after that, I tried to retire. I tried to take like a year off and figure out what I wanted to do. And like life got really existential really quick. I thought, okay, I need to start another company. I need to start another project. And the idea for GreenPal was one that I had in the back of my head. And I thought, okay, maybe I can start a tech company. And I made a commitment that I was just going to run it as long as I was enjoying doing it. And it's fun. I enjoy the challenges that the business gives me, and I'm becoming a whole new person every year or two. And that's very fulfilling to me.
Yeah. So what would you say right now are some of the things that you really enjoy or that are fun? I mean, obviously doing a podcast with the Friday Habit, right? That's enjoyable. But like, what other kind of stuff do you have going on? I'm assuming there's a lot of, I guess I've got all these things going on in my mind. I'm like, okay, there's 1,000 things I want to ask you. Where are you as far as like, how big is your team now? Like, what are you outsourcing all of your coding and all the SaaS, or is it all in house? Like, how does that work? And then, what are the things that you really enjoy day to day that keep you going?
Yeah, so the user base is around 300,000 people, and then there's about 30,000 landscape contractors that use the platform to run their business, and we manage all of that with a team of less than 50.
Okay.
It's between 40 and 50 depending on the time of the year.
Right.
Some contractors, most employees, and that it runs the whole spectrum from developers, designers, content writers, marketers, project managers, people that know what they're doing with AI now.
Yeah.
And so that's what the team looks like. And the fun thing about it is, now with AI, is I feel like I'm playing the game like a Super Mario Kart when you hit the star.
Yeah.
And like you're just kind of running around and like you're almost invincible. Like that's almost like when we last talked 5 years ago, I would bang my head against the wall all day long trying to figure out some stupid SQL query and getting it to work so I could get the right data out of the platform, or trying to figure out some kind of weird like Ruby on Rails bug that we had. It's just a bunch of stupid stuff. And now with AI, we're able to solve those problems just like that. I mean, it's just like you almost have a rock star CTO with 30 years of experience sitting right next to you, and a Harvard business grad sitting on the other side of you, and like a data scientist on the other side of the table. It's like you have the team you've always wanted now in your pocket, and I feel like it's better. It's a better time to be in business and starting a business than I've seen 100%. In my lifetime.
Yeah. No, I love that. And this is the one thing, and I've talked about this before. There's an element too, right? You're a seasoned business owner. You've run businesses. You've worked in the day to day. You understand the business really well. And so when you stack AI on top of that, it makes you superhuman, right?
It's like steroids. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. And my only worry though is because I have kids who will type something in there and they're like, oh, well, it said this. I'm like, yeah, but actually it's hallucinating, and you don't understand that it's hallucinating, but I do because I have the real world life experience of that's not how it works. And so that's my only concern is I this next generation coming up, I just want to encourage them to be like, listen, go get some real world experience. Don't just trust everything that this AI tells you, because if you don't know if it's right or wrong, like, then you're not going to be able to verify that, and then that might make you look dumb.
Or even if it was right all the time, even if it was never wrong, still not having done it yourself and knowing how this stuff works, I think almost makes it useless in your hands.
Right.
And I worry about that too. Is like if you've never been around the block, if you've never done it the hard way, then how do you even know how to use AI? It's like AI on top of the real world experience is a fulcrum. But if you haven't ever done anything, it's almost, I don't know how to play the guitar. It's almost like giving me the best guitar money can buy. It doesn't matter. That's some concerns that I have as well. And particularly with like hiring new people, it's like you really kind of, the good thing about AI is they can take a C or a B player and turn them into an A. But if they're an F player, it can't fix that. And so,
right.
So those are some things I'm concerned about as well.
Yeah, totally. So last time you were on, Ben Manley was my co-host, one of my best friends. He actually sold his business, took his family, homeschooled his kids, and traveled the world, went to every country, and, just had this big adventure. He came back and decided that he needed to part, from the show, but, came on and we kind of talked through a lot of his experience of, the things that he would have done differently and whatnot when it came time to sell his business. And you've kind of designed GreenPal. You've said that, it was designed to be sellable from day one. And so what specific decisions did you make early that most founders skip because they feel that it's, too early?
Yeah, I made this mistake with my first business, as I was building it and growing it from just me and like a push mower to me and 90 trucks going out every day. I had built it as a lifestyle business. I had built it where I was running it kind of from the heart almost. And so what I mean by that is, like, there were decisions that I would make just because I wanted to do it that way and I felt like it was the right thing to do. And that could mean like giving an employee an interest-free loan to go buy a house. It could mean repainting the office, even though maybe it didn't need it. It could be, fixing a broken piece on the fence outside. Like all kinds of things that I would do around the business to make it look nicer, to make it more of a place that I took pride in. But the reality is that you have to run your business from the spreadsheet. And if you ever want to sell it, you have to like make every decision that you're going to make financially stand on its own. Like there has to be a return on investment for every dime that you spend. And I didn't know that in the first business, but now with GreenPal, I run it from the spreadsheet. There's unit economics at place, and I have to know that if we spend $10, we'll get $10 or more back. And so that's how I think about it.
Yeah. So what was the mind shift, or was it hard for you to kind of go from running from the hip, from the heart, and then going to a spreadsheet? I mean, it sounds like something that wasn't in your wheelhouse of expertise.
Yeah, totally. It was hard because I look at my business as an extension of me. I look at my business as like, I am my business is me. And so I want it to look as good as it can. I want it to be something that I take pride in. And a lot of times you make poor decisions, financially speaking, when you have that mindset. Whereas if you look at your business like owning a stock or owning a piece of real estate or a piece of real estate in another state that you don't even see, that's kind of how you have to think about it. If you ever want to sell it, because the acquiring party is just going to be looking at it from the spreadsheet as well. They're just going to be looking at, okay, what's the EBITDA? What kind of profit does it make? And let's just give them a multiple on that profit. And that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter what the culture is. It doesn't matter what the logo looks like. It doesn't matter how, what kind of relationship you have with the people that work with you. They don't care about any of that stuff. All they care about is the cold, hard numbers. And so you kind of have to be thinking that way. And that was a transition for me. It cost me 2 or 3 years when I was selling my first business, and probably cost me money at the ultimate outcome as well, because I did not build it to sell.
Yeah. So then how did you structure GreenPal? Like out of the gate, what were some of the things that you did right away that were just kind of different? Like, I know you said like running from the spreadsheet, but were there other things that you started, hey, I need to start keeping track of these receipts better, or, whatever that might be?
Basic bookkeeping is a big one, but a clear delineation between personal expenses and business expenses, and not running personal expenses through the business. That's a basic one, but a lot of small business owners do that. Like, they might run their vehicle as a business expense, maybe a family vacation that they might have had a business meeting on, they might write it off. There's that. There's not being super disciplined about every dime that goes out. And so it's like, you might pay a marketing agency, whatever they make, 5, 10, 20 grand, 50 grand a month, and really looking at that money that you're spending and scrutinizing it and say, okay, am I getting a return on this investment? Because a lot of times as business owners, we get lazy. We just kind of go through the motions and throw some money here, throw some money there, and check the box. And the reality is we're making a poor, weak, lazy decision. If you really kind of have to put every dime that you make under scrutiny and say, okay, is this dollar going to give me a return on investment? And if you're not willing to do that, then you might not be able to build a business that can be sold. And so that's how I look at it with GreenPal. I have a bookkeeper and accountant, but I am all over the numbers every week and every month, making sure that every dime that's leaving the company is one that is bringing money back in, that we're getting a return on investment for every dollar we're spending.
Yeah. A lot of founders and stuff say they would just want to step back, but emotionally can't. What surprised you about the internal work of letting go?
Yeah, with the first business, there was a big part of it that I did not anticipate. Nobody really preps you for that when you're selling your business, especially one that if you had ran it for over a decade, it becomes part of your identity. And that's how it was with me building that company. And when I sold it, now it was kind of like existential. Like, I didn't like who was I? I was no longer the chief of this business. And there wasn't, like 150 people that looked up to me and looked to me for guidance and leadership and answers. And like, that was all gone. And so it was just me. And so, I try to like semi-retire, but I just couldn't do it. And so when I started GreenPal, it was very much starting all over again. It was just me and a couple of people, and I kind of had to build all of that up again. And so a lot of my personal like self-esteem and my personal like worth comes from my business and how it's doing. And when that was gone, when I sold my first company, that was a weird thing that nobody really talks about. Nobody prepares you for.
Yeah. How do you, like, especially in the service-based business, if an owner wants to be more than self-employed with a team, like, what's the first uncomfortable change they probably need to make?
So you don't realize it in the early days, but you really are just kind of self-employed. You have made yourself a job. Hopefully it's a good job, but it's still a job. Meaning if you step away, the business is going to dry up. And that's how my first company, my landscaping business, was for probably the first 7 years. And that's probably how GreenPal was the first 5 years, until I started building out a team around me. And you really don't have a business until you can leave it for like a month or two and come back. It's actually stronger. Meaning you have built-in place systems that make it, the fancy word I once heard was anti-fragile, like the opposite of fragile, durable. And you're looking for ways that you can build routines and reinforcing systems and processes in the business to where not only will it maintain without you, but it'll actually grow and prosper. And until you kind of cross that bridge, you really don't have a business yet. And so you're grinding towards that, and you're trying to get out from working in the business to on the business.
Right.
And then the third thing is working on yourself. So you need to really kind of do all three of those things at once. And in the early days, it might be 90% of your time is in the business. 7% is on the business, and 3% is on yourself. And as time goes on, you really kind of want to flip those. You want to slowly but surely start making good hires, getting good subcontractors, getting good freelancers, working with really good agencies, and building out a team around you to where now you're the manager of this and the leader and the arbiter of this big team. You're spending all of your time working on the business and working on yourself. You're reading books, you're listening to podcasts, you're going to conferences, you're networking with people who are 2 steps ahead of you. And once you can kind of flip that and get out of in the business and get it to on the business and on yourself, that's when you become a business owner.
Yeah, I love that. That's very insightful, because I think a lot of us, we call ourselves entrepreneurs or business owners, but again, a lot of times we've just built something that we're an employee of.
Yeah.
And we're not really doing the future planning or really thinking about, how to go from, 1x to 2x to 3x to 4x, and really vision boarding out like what the future is going to look like. And that's hard. I think it's, it's hard for me. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And so I've been kind of thinking a lot about that. And then, with Ben selling his business and kind of pivoting and whatnot, I've been thinking like, all right, like I've had a great run over the past decade, and it's been really enjoyable. And I've really, it's been a great lifestyle business,
Yeah. There's not a thing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah.
You can stay in self-employed land and be just fine. But just know that that's the game you're playing.
Right.
When I was building my first company, and then also with building GreenPal, I've worked with a lot of small business owners who are making a lot more money than me. They were they were keeping their agency super lean, or keeping their small business super lean, and yeah, they were self-employed, but they had about 3 or 4 employees, but they kept it super profitable. And then they took that money and reinvested it in stocks, crypto, real estate, and they built their net worth that way. And that's another path to success that, quite frankly, is more predictable and probably a better lifestyle than swinging for the fences and trying to build $100 million business with hundreds of employees that, is kind of like get rich or die trying. So there's multiple paths to achieve success. There's nothing wrong with being self-employed so long as you're working a plan to be and do that.
Yeah. What are some of the systems, or when you kind of started, I'm assuming with GreenPal, you were kind of the jack of all trades, learning coding, like doing all this stuff, right? Like out of the gate. What are some of the things that you really try to offload, looking at a business as a system, and looking at as like, okay, I'm doing this with GreenPal, but I could sell GreenPal tomorrow and then start another business. What are some of those things that you kind of want to start right away, as far as hiring like a virtual assistant, or like what kind of strategy are you implementing right there?
Yeah, when we first started GreenPal, delegation is this weird thing. It's like everybody tells you got to delegate to grow a business, and you should be looking to delegate. But the problem is, most founders, and I made this mistake, delegate too soon. And they try to delegate from a standpoint of, I don't know how to do that, you handle it. And like that always, every time I've ever tried to do that, it blows up in my face. And so when we first started GreenPal, we tried to delegate all the software development. We tried to delegate all of the tech. And that was a big mistake, because we didn't know how to do any of it. We didn't really know what we were looking for. And like, we paid a couple $100,000 to a development agency, and they took a year and built a piece of junk. And it did not work, and it was a total waste of time and money. And so then I learned, okay, if we're going to be in the tech business, we're going to have to learn how to build software. And so I had like co-founders and I, we went to YouTube University and took every online course we could get our hands on, and learned how to build software, and rebuilt the whole thing ourselves. while teaching ourselves. And then only from that standpoint could we then delegate to other software developers and other team members to help us move quicker. It's almost kind of like the AI conversation we had, where if you've never done it, AI is not going to help you, and that's kind of how delegating is too. You really kind of, if now that I'm thinking out loud, you're really delegating to AI, and whether you're delegating to a human being or delegating to an AI, it's the same thing. If you don't have the 80-20 kind of knowledge and acumen and the scars around whatever it is you're doing, it could be writing code, it could be writing copy, it could be designing, hell, it could be running a restaurant. You can't open a restaurant and delegate the kitchen unless you have actually like done some recipes and have a passion for that. So looking back, I made that mistake. I delegated too soon, and then I was like really gun shy about letting loose of anything because we wasted a bunch of our money and time. So then I delegated too late. We hung on to it too long. For like 4 years, we just did everything ourselves. We were all over everything all the time, doing all the customer service, all the blog content, all the inbound marketing, all the code. And so you can make both mistakes. You can delegate too soon, you can delegate too late. And I think the sweet spot is like doing it yourself for a little while, framing it up to some kind of repeatable scope of work, and then boom, let's get it out the door. Let's get somebody to handle it for us, and let's move on to the next thing, and then rinse and repeat. Yeah, kind of how I've always looked at it.
Yeah. So what do you see? Do you have in your mind like a certain time frame with GreenPal, or have you started other side projects, that stuff you get excited about? That you just like, hey, I got an idea for another business or a company.
I've been very lucky to not have FOMO because I've had one good idea in a decade. This was my one idea. It was like, okay, I've spent 15 years in the landscaping business. I sold that. And now I know that business, and I know tech combined with that business could build something that works. You see all of these like success stories. Sometimes they seem like overnight successes in the tech press. They never are. It's always the product of like 5 or 10 years of a grind that some founder has done. But even if you do see those stories, it's like, I didn't have that idea. That was not my idea.
Right.
And maybe I did have it, but I was probably 5 years too late. So I don't really get too bent out of shape about FOMO. And so, no, I've never had a desire to start another thing. I've enjoyed running this thing. I've enjoyed running GreenPal. And I feel like we need to get it in the English language. It needs to be a verb or a noun. Yeah. Kind of like Uber, kind of like DoorDash. Like, I think people are just now starting to say, hey, you just want to like DoorDash something later? Yeah. And so it's like, oh, what are you going to do? Do you have to mow the yard this weekend? No, let's just get a GreenPal. I want the GreenPal brand to be a noun. And so that's my vision. That's my goal. And I want to help as many small business owners along the way doing it. That's a lot of fun. And so I'm just going to keep doing this as long as I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. How, do you have a family?
I am never been married and I don't have kids. My mom and dad are in my life and important to me. My brother has 4 kids. So I've been told I'm the world's greatest uncle.
Nice.
But
okay.
I guess I'm married to my business. I always have been.
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of helps, as far as being able to just obsess about something and not neglect anyone.
Big competitive advantage. It always has been for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some things that you would say, that you would look back? I mean, do you think about ever like having a family or thinking like, oh man, maybe I should have invested in that? And, obviously as decades go by, you're kind of like, oh man,
It's a great question. I'm 45 now, and it's kind of funny. My mom was asking me this question a few months ago, and it was in a family group thread.
Mom's throwing you under the bus.
Yeah. She said, when are you going to settle down? And I responded, and honestly, I said, well, I would like to one day. Maybe I could have kids and have a family. I think I'd be a good dad. And my brother, who's got 4 kids, and he's 5 years older than me, he posts this meme in the family group thread, and it's just like an old wooden like pirate boat just drifting, and it's got the big sails, and it's just drifting. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what is he saying with this meme? What is he saying to me right now? And I'm staring at it, and then it hits me. That ship sailed. And so maybe he's right. Maybe that ship has sailed, or maybe 45, I could still make it happen.
You never know what God has for you, you know? It's
Totally.
like
Totally.
There's been stranger things, you know. Plus, you know, as being men, we kind of have an unfair advantage because as we age, you know, it's like a sign of distinguish. And George Clooney's, you know, a good-looking dude with gray hair, and women love him. So, you know, you do have that.
It's still possible. And I will say this: I've got the business to a point where that is now a possibility. In the first 5 years, I was working 7 days a week, 70, 80, sometimes 100-hour weeks. That's just not an optimal setup.
Yeah, you'd have been neglecting somebody, and it would have been terrible for a relationship. So.
And I think if you are planning on starting your own business, it's important to really audit that and be honest about it. It's important to say, okay, did you just get married and just have a newborn? I mean, I hate to say it, it's not really a good time to like jump off the deep end and start a startup. It's like this is a full contact sport. You need to have like 5 years of like your plate clear to have a shot at getting something going. And so I think that's important to think about. And also your personal finances. Like your personal burn is the business's burn. And Mark Cuban said, the less you can live on, the greater your options in business. And so I believe that. So it's important to be thinking about those things.
Yeah. So what do you do to take care of yourself? I mean, what are some of the things that you focus on as far as like health and fitness? What are you reading? What kind of routines do you have day to day that you have kind of learned that, I need to focus on these things?
Well, I made a big mistake when I was starting GreenPal. I locked myself, and my two co-founders did too. We locked ourselves in an office and almost never came out.
Just ordered pizza and slammed Coke.
Ramen noodles. Turns out, like if you eat ramen noodles for too long and too much, like you could die. It is not good.
There's no nutrition.
It's not good. And so I did that almost in a stupid way, like a badge of honor. It was really stupid. It was just like, how much crap can we eat and how much of a slob can we be? So long as we're behind the laptop writing code, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because there was a period of time where that was kind of glorified, and I definitely fell in that trap. And I got way out of shape. I'm 215 now. I got to 300 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And I felt bad. And my business output, suffered. And so I kind of hit a wall and out of desperation just signed up for a marathon and said, okay, I'm just going to, 6 months from now, I'm going to run this damn marathon. And I lost like 60, 70 pounds doing that. And I've kind of been on a yo-yo ever since. That was 10 years ago. But for now, I'm able to maintain pretty well just through weight training, boxing, HIIT workouts, and then really watching my diet. I have to stay under 2,200 calories a day, and that sucks, but it doesn't suck as bad as being out of shape and having to pay that debt off. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. There's a lot of parallels between business and dieting. Like you do a lot of things in business that you don't necessarily know are going to pay off, and you just kind of do them because they're the right thing. And if you do them consistently long enough, they do pay off. And dieting and exercise is a lot like that.
Yeah, totally. It's like it's such a slow burn where it's just like you're waking up at 6 a.m. and you're on the treadmill or you're lifting the weights and you're like, I don't see a difference. Like I've been coming here for 3 months and I don't feel like anything's changed,
That's
know,
right.
but then slowly like that flip starts to happen to where you kind of realize like, oh wait, and I think that's why it's important to track stuff too, because you can kind of see. A buddy of mine, I think maybe you were on his podcast. His name's Quentin Hudson.
His name rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a lawn care accelerator. He has a YouTube channel, and Lawn Care Ninja is the name of his company. But yeah, he was up to like 320 pounds, and he's a dear friend of mine from high school, and we've been close. To do. Yeah, and it was just like, come on, man, like you're the healthiest you're going to be in your life. He's 45, and it's like you're only going to go down from here, So totally. It's like. So we started going to the gym together, and he started getting hardcore and really tracking it. He could barely do 10 crunches and all this stuff, but he just stayed consistent, and he kept eating healthy and kept going to the gym, and slowly but surely he's down to like, I think 213, and
that's great.
He's lost a ton of weight, and it's cool too because he's been tracking it, like how much weight he could lift, how long he can hold a plank, and so it's cool when he can look back over a year and be like, oh wow, I could only hold a plank for like 10 seconds, and now I can hold it for 2 minutes. So you can really look back and say, oh, I have made some really good progress. And I think very similarly with business, right? It's kind of sometimes. If I get down on myself, I'm thinking like, man, I don't think anything's happening. Like, I feel like we're standing or whatever. And then you pull up that spreadsheet and you say, oh, wow, we grow 20% every year over the past 5 years. Like, that's not bad.
Totally. And like you just said, with the tracking it, like I think in business and in fitness and in dieting, it's like you track the inputs, not the outputs. So it's just like, what did we do this week? What did we do this month? Let's look at the spreadsheet. Let's just obsess over that. It's almost like the goals don't matter. Mm-hmm. They will come if you just obsess and track the inputs.
Yep.
And I heard a piece of advice the other day that somebody said somewhere. It's like, don't get jealous of somebody else's outputs. Be jealous of their inputs. So it's like, the fitness influencer or the successful founder, and it's like they have all of the success at that certain, like in that certain area. It's like, don't be jealous of that. Be jealous of all the things they had to do to get there.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Reframing it that way kind of keeps us focused on tracking those things, tracking the things we're doing on a daily basis, whether it be in business and fitness. It's so funny how the two are so similar. They're almost the same journey.
Yeah, yeah. So then what are you consuming right now as far as content? Like are you really into business motivational content? Are you reading books? Like, what's going on there?
For me, I try to go as far down the rabbit hole on whoever has done what it is I'm trying to do at a tactical level. So right now we have a big initiative at GreenPal around what's called programmatic SEO, which means if you can think of like Zillow, like the Zestimate, and how like there is literally a web page for every single home in the United States on Zillow, and they have built that from a standpoint of programmatic SEO. And so we are launching a similar initiative, GreenPal, where we are building all of this granular piece of content for leaf removal services in Spokane, Washington, and every like town and neighborhood around that city, and like minting those over and over again through the top 300 cities in the United States. And there's like maybe 50 people in the world that have done something like this, 100 tops. And some of them, do interviews and do podcast interviews. And so I'm consuming as much of that as I can. That's how content usually works for me, is going really deep in whatever it is that is block and tackling for the business at that moment, and just going all in on that. So my YouTube, I listen to all my podcasts on YouTube now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I keep telling people, it's so many people are thinking, oh, well, podcast, isn't that just like audio? I'm like, no, I like YouTube is the #1 podcast platform now.
It's so much better.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like laughable how bad the other ones are, because YouTube is so much better at helping you discover other related stuff that you're interested in. And so that keeps me busy. And I'm literally listening to like 4 or 5 hours a day, or watching 4 or 5 hours a day of content on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's almost crazy. I'm learning so much from people who have done what it is I'm trying to do. And so that can, and then that will zoom out, and it could go into something deep around brand or copywriting or company building or culture or you name it. But I like to go really deep on whatever it is that's block and tackling for the business at that moment.
Yeah. And then are you reading anything right now, or pretty much just the YouTube?
I'm always listening to an audiobook. Just got done with the Matthew McConaughey autobiography. That was a really good one. And then And then before that, I listened to a book called Sapiens that was really good. And then its sequel called Homo Deus, I think. And those were really good books about human nature and human psychology and how we kind of got to where we are as human beings. Fascinating books. So I'm usually listening to an audiobook on Audible or going really deep down the rabbit hole on something on YouTube University.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this kind of backtracks a little bit, but I'm curious, kind of hearing you talk about this and you kind of focusing on yourself and how you're saying that that's really one of the most important things is if you can kind of get yourself right, then that trickles down into the business. And then in the business, how are you looking at, say, your employees and like your role to like motivate them and keep them kind of on task, or really getting them to buy into your vision and growth and stuff like that?
Yeah, I learned a long time ago that you don't want to hire people and then motivate them. You want to hire motivated people and to make sure you don't demotivate them. And because it's like if somebody's just not naturally curious about whatever their domain is, and they're not naturally curious about pushing that forward and learning more about it and executing a game plan that with you that relates to that, there's no pep talk you can give them to get them to want to do that. And it could be as it relates to like designers we're hiring, content writers, like if you're going to write for our blog, like you love to write. You were the person that wrote their first book while they were like, in high school or something. I would never write a book just for fun. But believe it or not, there's people that do. Yeah. And that's the kind of person you need to hire to write for your blog. Is the person that loves to write, or the type of user experience designer. Like you got to really find somebody that loves to do that, and then make sure you don't demotivate them. It's a lot harder work to find these kinds of people. And what I've learned is for one good hire, you're going to go through 10 or 20. And that's okay. And once you realize they're not a good fit, you usually know in a week or less. And you gotta cut ties and help them get on somewhere else and go down the list. If you aren't willing to put in that upfront investment, well, then life is going to be hard. Business life is going to be hard because you're going to be constantly trying to fix them. And it's almost the same as marriage. I've never been married, but there's a Charlie Munger quote. He says, a recipe for a miserable life is marrying someone and thinking you can change them. And that probably relates to co-founders, business partners, and people you hire to run it to help you with your business, who are kind of co-founders in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, a path to misery in business is hiring somebody and thinking you can change them.
Yeah, totally. Well, cool, man. Listen, I've enjoyed reconnecting with you and chatting some more. And I just want to leave everybody. If you could kind of tell our audience something they could start on Monday, like, hey, next week, start doing this. What is that one piece of advice that you're going to give starting Monday morning?
I would Monday morning, let's say you wanted to take control of your destiny and you wanted to get one step closer towards doing your own thing. I would take the next 30 days and spend literally 5 to 7 hours a day learning as much as I could and using as many AI tools as I could. I would use every single AI tool I could get my hands on. I would take every course on Udemy that I could get. I would watch every video on YouTube. I would do it 7 days a week, 5, 6, 7 hours a day for 30 days. And then I guarantee you out of that will come some kind of thing where like, you're like, okay, yeah, this could, maybe you work, at your job and you can see a way that AI can make that work a lot easier and you could build an agency around it or a product around it. If you were willing to do that for 30 days, I guarantee you it would change your life.
Yeah, I love that. So if people wanted to connect with you, hear more of your story, maybe GreenPal their lawn this next weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't want to mow your own yard, just get a GreenPal.
GreenPal. Get a GreenPal.
GreenPal. Yeah. GreenPal.com. And then anybody want to hit me up, just Google my name, Brian Clayton, and you'll find my LinkedIn and my Instagram. Just drop me a DM there.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for being here. And thank you for listening to The Friday Habit, for hanging out with us. And if you go to thefridayhabit.com, you can find show notes for this episode. You can also find links to our website and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit system. It's going to show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of always in your business. If you got any questions for us, you can hit us up at hello@thefridayhabit.com. And until next time, remember, live every day like it's Friday.